and video games. Sometimes they are inseparable, sometimes to the exclusion of everything else. Hundreds of studies have suggested excessive playing of video games has a harmful effect on children and teens. With us to sort all this out for you parents is our resident psychologist, Dr. Joanne Stephenson. Dr. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here, and this is a good topic.
Now, because video games are a rather new medium, there's a lot less research on them than there is for TV and things like that. What is your take on how that video games can influence a child, especially their aggression?
Yes, especially the aggression. We're finding that, well, they spend so much time on them, and again, this is more a boy issue. So like we've talked in the past, you have that testosterone in the mix when they get excited, and so aggression is more of an issue than when girls play. And boys play video games, they're saying 3 to 4 times more. I think it's like 10 times more. Wow. And it's different than watching violent movies in a way because there's that interaction, so they're involved in it. But you still have that thing where they're not realizing what the violence actually does to a person. And so they kind of get desensitized too. So you have all of this, they can transfer it over to real life and not realize how destructive they're being, or pumping up the aggression for them.
Now, you mentioned the desensitizing, and I think this issue really became a lot more publicized after the Columbine school shooting in 1999. Right. Do you think that video games played a part in this and other similar events, especially with boys? Actually,
they did. The Columbine issue really brought this to the forefront. That was one of the big components in that shooting. And not that violent video games will make a person violent. They're not going to make you violent. We're not going to take a young man who has no violent tendencies and make him a violent person or aggressive person. But people who already have that tendency choose these as their entertainment, and so they're immersed in it, and it's like throwing gas on a fire. They are aggressive, they like aggression, they like violence, they want to hurt somebody. Then they act it out through these video games, and they're increasing the violence and keeping those chemicals in the mix. And so it really does pump up the aggression and the violent tendencies. And it makes them feel it's okay. It kind of makes them feel that they have license to do it.
Yeah. Now, moving from just violent video games to any video game really in general, it seems to me, does it affect the child's brain development anyway, or will it affect the child later on in their life?
Well, we found this out with television, first of all. So often parents think this is a good babysitter, we'll let the child watch it. And at first we thought, well, with all these things, all the technology, kids will have an advantage of knowing more. But they don't learn as much because there's not human interaction in it. Watching a movie of Dr. Seuss is not the same as being read Dr. Seuss. It's not building their vocabulary, it's not building their cognitive skills. The video games, a little more interactive, so they can be very good, but again, used in moderation. It's a tool. I wouldn't let my child do anything to an extreme. I would want to keep everything in balance. Choosing things that are appropriate, you really need to know what your kids are doing. Yeah. And parents need to be educated. Like you said, this has come so fast that actually the laws, legislation, and parent knowledge is way behind the technology. They can be good if you use them as enrichment, to extend your child's knowledge, but not spending too much time on it. Human interaction will always be the best thing. You're the best toy for your child.
Now, I know a lot of parents seem to use these video games and even these educational video games as a sort of babysitter. Right. Are the video games the enemy here, or is it a bigger issue?
Well, it's a bigger issue. It's video games, television, anything that children are using to the exclusion of that human interaction. It really hurts their social development. And it's not developing all the cognitive skills, the emotional skills that they need. They need to be interacting with other people. They need interaction, play with their peers. They need interaction with, play type interaction with adults. They need to get outside, first of all. They need to not be sedentary, and these are sedentary activities. They need to get more active activities. We think this may be adding to the obesity epidemic. So again, anything in moderation that is good, first of all, check it out and know it's appropriate. but not using anything to occupy your child so that you're not interacting with them.
Okay, so you, as a parent, you really need to get your children out there and get them
Right.
active and let them play video games in moderation. Thank you so much for joining us today and
Sure.
talking a little bit more about this issue. Next week, Dr. Joanne and I will explore one of the most frustrating subjects for many adults, teens who are hooked on text messaging. When we return, a preview of a big groundbreaking tomorrow in Jackson. Stay with us.